Right mindfulness is a path that allows us to live more deeply and peacefully in every moment of the present. When we speak about mindfulness, many people may think of it as something distant, something that belongs only to monks or those devoted entirely to spiritual practice. But in truth, mindfulness is simply breathing, walking, looking, listening. It is life itself as it is unfolding here and now. Mindfulness is not a complex philosophy, nor is it a rigid rule. It is simply the way we return to ourselves, recognizing clearly what is happening in body and mind, without adding or taking away, without judgment. In our daily lives, we are so often carried away by streams of thoughts, worries, plans, memories, and unfinished desires. The mind tends to rush into the future or drift back into the past. And rarely does it stop to be present in this very moment. Yet it is in the present moment that life is most real and complete. That is why the teaching of mindfulness is repeated again and again, as a gentle reminder to come back. Picture this: in the morning, when you step outside your home, instead of being lost in thoughts about your work or the things you have to do, you pause for a few seconds, take a deep breath, and feel the fresh air entering your lungs. You notice the rising sun, the sound of birdsong. Just a moment like this is enough to bring the mind back, to see that life is already here, present in the simplest details. Right mindfulness is not about escaping from life, nor about running to a quiet place to hide from difficulties. On the contrary, mindfulness helps us live right in the middle of daily life without being swept away, without drowning in it. When the mind is present in the here and now, we know what we are doing, what we are thinking, and what we are feeling. From that presence, awareness arises, and from awareness, peace naturally blossoms. In the early Buddhist tradition, mindfulness is regarded as the foundation of the path. It is like a lamp that shines light, allowing us to see clearly the movements of body and mind. Where there is light, darkness fades. Where there is mindfulness, confusion and unwholesome habits gradually weaken. Right mindfulness is not something dry or heavy. Practicing mindfulness can be gentle and joyful. When eating a meal in mindfulness, we truly taste each bite, feeling gratitude for the earth, the sky, and all the people who contributed to that meal. When walking mindfully, we feel each step firm and steady, each breath calm and easy. And with every step we return more deeply to ourselves. The practice of mindfulness can begin with the simplest of things. There is no need to create something extraordinary. We only need to recognize what is already present. Even while washing dishes, if we know that we are washing dishes, that is mindfulness. When we listen to a friend with our full presence, that is mindfulness too. At first, the mind may resist. It may want to wander, jumping from one thought to another. But this is precisely the opportunity to practice. Each time we notice that we have been carried away, we simply and gently bring the mind back to the breath, back to the body, back to the step. No judgment, no blame, no force, just returning. And every return is like watering the seed of awareness within us. The beauty of mindfulness is that as it grows, we begin to see more clearly what is happening inside. We notice when the mind is filled with desire, irritation, or frustration. Instead of being swept away, we can pause and recognize those emotions like a visitor knocking at the door. When we simply acknowledge them without reacting, they gradually lose their strength and fade away. Right mindfulness not only helps us to understand ourselves, it also helps us to understand others. When we are truly present, we can hear the subtle voice in the heart of the person before us. We listen not only with our ears, but with our whole being. And from that listening, compassion and understanding arise. In a world full of conflicts and misunderstandings, listening with mindfulness already brings peace to ourselves and to others. Many people ask, can mindfulness help us deal with suffering? The answer is yes. Suffering often comes from forgetfulness, from not seeing things as they truly are. When we live with mindfulness, we recognize the impermanent nature of all things. Everything changes. Nothing lasts forever in one form or one state. Seeing this clearly, we no longer cling or resist blindly. We learn to let go of what needs to be released, to accept what is here, and suffering gradually lessens. Right mindfulness also opens the door to simple joy. This is not the joy of instant gratification, but a deep and quiet joy born of presence. Sitting quietly, breathing softly, knowing that we are alive. Joy is already here. Touching a flower, seeing its beauty and fragrance. Joy is already here. Such joy does not need to be sought far away, because it is already present in this very moment, waiting for us to wake up and recognize it. When right mindfulness is cultivated regularly, we begin to see clearly that this body is only a process. Never fixed, never permanent. Each breath in and out, each movement of the hand, each sensation of heat, cold, pain, or ease, all are constantly changing. Without right mindfulness, we may mistakenly believe that the body is something solid, something lasting, and from that belief attachment arises. But when we look deeply with right mindfulness, we see that the body is simply a combination of breath, of earth, water, fire, and wind, always moving according to natural laws. Seeing this clearly, we release much of our clinging and learn to live more lightly. Not only the body, but the mind as well. Thoughts, feelings, and moods arise and pass like clouds drifting across the sky. Without right mindfulness, we are often carried away, identifying ourselves with them, and suffering is born. But when right mindfulness is present, we recognize them clearly. This is anger. This is sadness. This is a thought appearing. We are no longer victims of these mental states but become clear observers. Through recognition, they naturally lose their power and dissolve. Right mindfulness is like an honest companion, always reminding us to come back. In the midst of work, right mindfulness helps us to focus and to complete each task fully. In moments of rest, right mindfulness helps us to truly relax. In times of difficulty, right mindfulness prevents us from reacting hastily, allowing us instead to respond calmly with wisdom. The precious thing about right mindfulness is that it requires no special conditions. Whether we are among a crowd or alone, whether we are busy at work or sitting quietly, right mindfulness can be nourished. Simply returning to the breath, to each step, to the activity at hand. This is already practice. In the beginning it may feel challenging, but little by little, right mindfulness becomes a natural habit. And this very habit is the foundation for lasting peace. When right mindfulness is present, compassion is also nourished. We see clearly that everyone has their own struggles, that each person experiences suffering and longs for happiness. With this insight, we become more understanding, more forgiving, more open-hearted. A word spoken with right mindfulness can ease the pain of another. An action taken with right mindfulness can bring great joy. And when we live with right mindfulness, those around us naturally feel the energy of peace, and they too are nourished by it. Right mindfulness also shows us that true happiness is not in a distant future, but right here in the present. We often think that we must achieve something or obtain something before we can be happy. But right mindfulness reveals that with just a calm breath, a steady step, or a sincere smile, happiness is already here. To practice right mindfulness is to live fully in the present moment. Not chasing after, not running away, but dwelling peacefully right here and now. Within the Noble Eightfold Path, right mindfulness holds a special and essential role, like a thread that ties the other factors together into a complete path. Without right mindfulness, even if we have right view or right thought, the mind can still fall into forgetfulness. It is right mindfulness that allows us to pause, to illuminate each moment, so that every action, word, and thought rests upon a foundation of awareness. Right mindfulness is like a guardian at the gate of the mind. Whenever a thought arises, whether wholesome or unwholesome, we are able to recognize it. That recognition is like lighting a lamp. Under its light, unwholesome states find no refuge, while wholesome ones are nurtured and strengthened. Thanks to right mindfulness, we can guide our own path instead of being pulled along by habits and afflictions. What is wonderful is that right mindfulness is not something distant or difficult. It is present in the most ordinary moments of life. When we drink a cup of water and know that we are drinking, that is right mindfulness. When we listen to a loved one and know clearly that we are listening, that too is right mindfulness. This simple presence brings depth to life and opens the door to peace. Right mindfulness is also the root of wisdom. When the mind is established, we see clearly the impermanence of all phenomena. We see feelings arising and passing. We see thoughts appearing and dissolving. Realizing this nature of constant change, we loosen our attachments, and the mind becomes lighter and freer. In modern life, people often live in haste, carried away by work, information, and pressure. Without right mindfulness, we easily lose balance and allow fatigue to control us. But just one calm breath, one mindful step, or one quiet minute of stillness can restore our stability and nourish freshness. Right mindfulness is not an abstract theory but an art of living. It helps us live more deeply, more meaningfully, without wasting a single precious moment. For life is truly found only here and now, not in the past that has gone or in the future that has not yet arrived. When we truly see this, our hearts open, become lighter, and happiness naturally blossoms in the present moment. When right mindfulness is practiced regularly, we realize that life is never lacking, but in fact, incredibly abundant. As long as the mind is present, we can see that even the simplest things around us contain happiness. A cool breeze, a falling leaf, the laughter of a child, or simply the feeling of our feet touching the ground, all become wondrous. Right mindfulness also teaches us to cherish this body, instead of treating it only as a tool for work or as something to satisfy desires. We learn to care for the body with understanding and kindness. When eating, we eat with right mindfulness to nourish ourselves, not just to satisfy a passing craving. When resting, we rest with right mindfulness to restore energy, not to waste time. In this way, the body becomes healthier and the mind grows clearer. In moments of suffering, right mindfulness becomes a steady refuge. When sadness or worry arises, if we only try to escape or suppress it, those emotions grow even stronger. But if we light the lamp of right mindfulness, sit quietly and recognize, this is sadness, this is worry, then the mere act of recognition already brings relief. Just as holding a crying child helps the child to calm down. Right mindfulness embraces our emotions, making them lighter and softer. Right mindfulness also helps us establish genuine connections with others. When we speak with right mindfulness, our words become gentle and capable of building bridges. When we listen with right mindfulness, the person before us feels understood and respected. Relationships therefore become more solid, with fewer misunderstandings and fewer conflicts. To practice right mindfulness is to return to the reality of the present moment. It is not about searching for a distant place, nor waiting for a better tomorrow, but about living fully right here and now. Each breath, each step, each smile, if filled with right mindfulness, becomes a doorway into peace. Right mindfulness also helps us realize that suffering and happiness are not separate. It is because of suffering that we can truly understand the value of peace. Without stormy days, we would hardly appreciate the warmth of sunlight. With right mindfulness, we do not run away from suffering. Instead, we learn to look directly at it, to recognize it, and to understand that it too is a part of life. Because of this, we do not fall into despair or fear, but see that suffering is actually the very material that nourishes understanding and compassion. In daily life, right mindfulness is also the key that frees us from tension. At times, work, responsibilities, or relationships fill our minds with pressure. If we allow our thoughts to run endlessly, fatigue only grows heavier. But if we pause, breathe slowly, and return to right mindfulness, even for just a few minutes, we feel renewed. Tension gradually dissolves, giving way to calm and clarity. Right mindfulness also opens the door to a simple way of living. When the mind is fully present, we see that excessive material desires are unnecessary. We learn to be content with what we already have, to treasure even the smallest things. And through that, happiness arises naturally, without relying on accumulation or competition. More importantly, right mindfulness leads us to inner freedom. This freedom is not about going somewhere far away, but about being free from the domination of greed, anger, and delusion. With right mindfulness, we see those mental states the very moment they arise. And when we see them clearly, they can no longer control us. This is true freedom, a freedom no one can take away, because it comes from awareness in each breath, in each moment. Right mindfulness is not only a practice for individuals but also brings positive transformation to the community. When each person learns to return to their breath and steps, keeping body and mind calm, that peaceful energy naturally spreads to those around them. A family whose members practice right mindfulness will have fewer arguments, replaced instead by listening and understanding. A workplace where people practice right mindfulness will become more harmonious, creative, and effective. And in a society where many cultivate right mindfulness, conflicts decrease, while compassion and trust increase. Right mindfulness also helps us see clearly our deep connection with all beings. we realize that our life is not separate, but interdependent with the earth, the water, the trees, the insects, the animals, and other people. When we breathe in, we know that the air we take in is made possible by the green forests. When we drink a glass of water, we see the effort of countless people who preserved and brought it to us. Such awareness helps us live with gratitude and responsibility toward the environment and the community. To practice right mindfulness also means learning to stop. We stop so that we are not swept away by the cycle of habits. We stop to look deeply and see the true nature of things. We stop so that body and mind have the chance to rest and to heal. This stopping is not passivity, it is the foundation for wiser and more compassionate action. Some may think that right mindfulness is only for sitting meditation or for retreats. But in truth, right mindfulness can be present at any time, anywhere. When we wash our face in the morning, when we cook a meal, when we walk on a familiar path, each of these can be opportunities to practice. As long as the mind returns and clearly recognizes what we are doing, right mindfulness is already there. Right mindfulness nourishes us not with promises of something far away, but with the living reality of the present moment. That is why the more we practice, the more we see life as precious. Each moment is valuable, and true happiness is something not distant, but right here in the life we are living. Practicing right mindfulness also helps us look deeply into the true nature of happiness. We often think that happiness comes from achieving what we desire or from removing all difficulties. But with right mindfulness, we see that happiness does not depend entirely on external conditions. It lies in how we touch the present moment. Even when challenges are present, if the mind is established in right mindfulness, we can still find peace in each breath and each step. Right mindfulness is also the key that opens the understanding of impermanence. When we observe carefully, we see that all things are changing. Joy does not stay forever, and sorrow does not last long. Seeing impermanence clearly, we no longer cling tightly to what we have, nor do we despair when something is lost. Instead, we learn to treasure each moment, knowing that everything is precious because it will never return in exactly the same way. Another gift of right mindfulness is stability. When the mind is scattered, we are easily pushed around by circumstances, easily swept away by emotions. But when right mindfulness is present, we are like a great tree, standing firm no matter how strong the wind blows. This stability helps us endure the storms of life without falling, and it also offers shelter to those around us. Right mindfulness is never separate from compassion. When the mind is calm and present, we clearly see our own suffering and the suffering of others. This seeing gives rise to love, not a love based on possession or conditions, but on understanding and acceptance. With right mindfulness, love becomes pure, helping us live more authentically and connect more deeply with others. Through the practice of right mindfulness, we gradually experience the lightness of freedom. This freedom is not an escape from duties or responsibilities, but a release from the bonds of habits and defilements. Each moment of right mindfulness is a moment of freedom, a moment of true happiness, a moment of living fully. Right mindfulness is like a mirror that reflects the mind. Whenever a thought arises, whether wholesome or unwholesome, if right mindfulness is present, we immediately recognize it. In this way, we do not become identified with the thought, but simply see it as a passing cloud. When anger or sadness appears, we are able to know clearly, this is anger, this is sadness, and through that recognition, we do not let them dominate us. Just as holding a lamp in our hand makes the darkness naturally vanish. Right mindfulness is the light that prevents us from losing our way. The practice of right mindfulness also nurtures patience. By clearly seeing that all things follow the law of causes and conditions, we no longer act in haste or irritation. We learn how to wait, how to let things unfold naturally. And because of this, the mind becomes more at ease. This patience is not passivity, but inner strength, helping us stay steady without being shaken by sudden changes. Another benefit of right mindfulness is the ability to cultivate simple joys. Instead of seeking happiness in distant things, we realize that just one calm breath, a warm cup of tea, or the morning sunlight is enough to nourish the heart. When the mind is present, even the simplest things become precious. And the more we touch these simple joys, the more we see that true happiness is never out of reach. It is right here in everyday life. Right mindfulness is also the foundation for developing wisdom. When the mind is established in right mindfulness, we clearly see the nature of impermanence, suffering, and non-self. We see that all phenomena arise and pass away according to conditions. And because of this, our attachment and suffering lessen. This wisdom does not come from books or theories but from direct experience in each moment of awareness. When we live with right mindfulness, we not only nourish ourselves but also share peace with others. The energy of awareness in every step, every word, and every action plants seeds of calm in those around us. In this way, life becomes lighter and more beautiful, not only for ourselves, but for everyone we meet. As we go deeper into the practice of right mindfulness, we begin to clearly see how the mind operates. Often we mistakenly believe that we are our thoughts, emotions, or the stories in our heads. But right mindfulness shows us that these are only passing phenomena, they come and go. And they are not a solid self. With this insight, we cling less to the idea of a fixed identity and are less swept away by notions of I and mine. Right mindfulness also helps us recognize the nature of suffering. Instead of trying to push it away or avoid it, we look directly at suffering with a clear mind. When we see its roots, whether craving, anger, or ignorance, we are no longer afraid. On the contrary, we know how to transform it by nurturing wholesome states of mind. Right mindfulness is like the key that opens the door to step out of the endless cycle of afflictions. The practice of right mindfulness not only brings peace in the present moment but also prepares us to face the major changes of life. When illness, loss, or death comes, without right mindfulness we may easily be overwhelmed by fear. But with right mindfulness, we clearly see that all things are impermanent, that birth and death are simply natural continuations. From this understanding, we can face even the most difficult moments with calmness and acceptance. Another important point is that right mindfulness is never separate from the breath. The breath is the anchor that brings us back to the present. Whenever the mind is unsettled, simply returning to the breath immediately makes us more stable. The breath is a priceless gift that is always available, if only we recognize it and touch it with awareness. Through long-term practice of right mindfulness, we realize that peace is never far away, but present in every ordinary moment. When we walk with right mindfulness, we feel the earth supporting each step. When we breathe with right mindfulness, we feel the sky and fresh air embracing us. Everything is already wondrous, and the moment the mind is truly present, we are able to see it. With long practice of right mindfulness, we begin to realize a profound truth. Life is not found somewhere far away, but right here in each present moment. We do not need to wait for a better tomorrow to find peace. Nor do we need to search for a special place to discover happiness. Simply by being fully present in this very moment, we already touch the miracle of life. Right mindfulness helps us see clearly that happiness is not a condition to be achieved, but the capacity to recognize and appreciate what is already here. When we feel gratitude for a simple meal, when we cherish the presence of a loved one, when we are aware of a calm breath, happiness is already present. Nothing more is needed. Awareness itself is enough. Another deep benefit of right mindfulness is the ability to transform habits. Usually, we act under the pull of old patterns, often without awareness, but with right mindfulness, we can pause, recognize those patterns before they dictate our actions. When we see them clearly, we can choose a new way of responding, a more wholesome way, instead of repeating the same old cycle. This is true freedom, the freedom to choose in each moment. Instead of being bound by habit, right mindfulness also reveals to us the value of stillness. In the modern world, noise and haste often cover over the quiet space within. But when we stop and breathe mindfully, we touch the wondrous silence in our own heart. It is in this silence that we find clarity, love, and wisdom. Nurturing right mindfulness is not a short-term effort but a lifelong journey. Each day we plant a seed of awareness, and over time, these seeds grow into a garden of peace within us. When that garden blossoms, we not only enjoy its fragrance ourselves but also share it with everyone around us. As we look back on the journey with right mindfulness, we realize that everything we have been seeking, peace, happiness, and freedom, has always been here in the present moment. Just one calm breath, one steady step, one sincere smile, and life already reveals its wonder. Right mindfulness is not something distant, it is a close companion, always reminding us to return to the reality of what is truly here. Walking deeply on the path of right mindfulness, we learn to live with more ease, to love more fully, and to let go of unnecessary burdens. Each day, by planting even a small seed of awareness, we nourish a garden of peace within, and when that garden blossoms, not only do we enjoy its fragrance ourselves, but those around us also receive the touch of its peace. Before closing this episode, I would like to offer my gratitude to all of you who have listened and walked along with me. Your presence is the true inspiration that keeps this channel alive, continuing to share meaningful content to help each of us discover mindfulness in everyday life. If you feel this podcast has been helpful, please consider subscribing to the channel so you won't miss future episodes. You are also warmly invited to share this episode with friends and loved ones, as a small gift to spread seeds of peace and awareness into the world. May you and your loved ones always live in peace, awareness, and true happiness. I look forward to being with you again in the next episode.